Welcome to Profs Talk Art, where Davidson professors talk about the artworks from the collection of the Fan Every Smith galleries. Today we have Professor Dave Wessner talk about Shane Kelly's Disclosure series.
Hey there, I'm Dave Wessner in the Department of Biology and Public Health here at Davidson. For me, art has always been a great way of introducing important topics about science, biology, and especially infectious diseases. In the classroom, I often mention that science doesn't exist in a vacuum. We need to understand the social and historical context of science, and we need to think about the lived experience. And I think by using works of art in the classroom, that provides a really great entree into those important discussions. One of the pieces of art that I really like using in the classroom is Disclosures by Shane Kelly. Shane is a Canadian artist. In 2009, he was diagnosed with HIV, and since then he's increasingly used his art to educate people about HIV/AIDS and to fight back against the stigma still associated with this disease. So how can we use this in the classroom? The pieces are on display here behind me. Let's start with just the title of the pieces, Disclosures. If you're thinking about HIV/AIDS, to whom should you disclose your status? Should you disclose it to an intimate partner, to your family members, to an employer? I think it also raises the question of HIV criminalization laws. In the United States, currently 35 states have criminalization laws that make it illegal to expose someone to HIV. In a classroom, we can have a discussion about, are those laws just? Do they actually reduce the transmission of the virus? For someone that has an undetectable viral load and is very unlikely to transmit the virus, should these laws be applicable? Next we can look at just the way these pieces of art were created. The images themselves are created by needle perforations in parchment paper. For me, that immediately leads to discussion about HIV transmission. Sharing needles is a very effective way of transmitting the virus and is a big problem, especially among people who inject drugs. You might also look at those needle perforations and start thinking about medical aspects of HIV. You might think about drug development and the continued search for a vaccine and the antiretroviral drugs that are available for someone living with HIV. Finally, I think that the words themselves are really interesting to be used in a biology classroom. I mean, they say here, I really don't want you to be afraid of me. I'm not afraid of you, I'm afraid of it. And the top one behind me here, she pushed the AIDS pamphlets aside before climbing on top of me again. I think all of those really speak to the lived experience of HIV/AIDS. And then the third one up here behind me, I think is really interesting in today's era of PrEP, pre-exposure prophylaxis, and the idea that if you're undetectable, you're untransmittable. In other words, because the drugs that are available, if you're HIV positive, you could have a very, very low viral load that's undetectable, and it's virtually impossible to transmit the virus to somebody else. So I think that topic really comes up with that third one there. And I think it's interesting too that these pieces by Shane Kelly don't just speak about HIV/AIDS. Last semester in my COVID-19 seminar, I had students visit the back and identify pieces of art that they thought spoke to them about the current pandemic. And a couple of the students picked these two pieces by Shane Kelly, and they said that it reminded them of the fear, the uncertainty, the unknowing aspect of COVID-19. So with these works, I think Shane Kelly really transcends HIV/AIDS and again provides a wonderful entree into a much broader discussion about infectious diseases.